Number one, we are re-signing Micah Parsons. This one is easy. He's one of the best defensive players in football, and we're actually going to reduce his cap hit from $24 million on his fifth-year option when we do re-sign Micah Parsons. You're starting there on the defense. Obviously, he's going to get a big contract, but you want to keep your stars around. Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons are your three stars on the defensive side of the football. Number two, we are moving to add some salary cap space here. We're going to restructure Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. This is going to create, this is not an exaggeration, this is going to create $60 million in cap space for the Cowboys. Those guys are sticking around. They're your core. Whether Cowboys fans like it or not, Dak Prescott's going to be there for years to come. Add the Micah Parsons restructure. We're looking at probably $65 million in cap space. That's a lot of money to work with, and we're going to need it for steps 3, 4, and 5 in this plan. Step 3 for the Cowboys. We are adding help at receiver. All the moves they've made have not worked. Haven't invested much in the draft since CeeDee Lamb was taken in the first round. Their moves with the veterans. They moved on from Amari Cooper. They traded, or they got rid of a bunch of, Brandon Cooks they traded for. They got Michael Gallup and re-signed him. That didn't work. Adding a Deebo Samuel to the mix gives a big body, physicality the Cowboys have not had in their offense in several years. He's tormented the Cowboys himself. Deebo Samuel would be a great addition as the number 2, not the number 1, but the number 2 next to CeeDee Lamb. Number 4, the offensive line needs to be replenished now, especially after Zach Martin was retired. Running back, I know Cowboys want to add a guy. Maybe they draft someone. Rico Dowdle's been good, 12th in rushing yards, 4.6 yards per carry last year. But there's a big hole in that offensive line, which is 27th in spending and cash next year. I would look at Trey Smith, that star Chiefs guard. A plug-and-play replacement for Zach Martin, a big body, a great run blocker in the interior. Cowboys teams have always been good when they have good offensive lines. And then you flip it. Number 5, this is not the sexiest option, but we're looking at the defensive line and that defensive tackle rotation. We're looking at pieces here who are going to help us in short yardage. Last year, the Cowboys were not just the worst red zone defense in football, they were the 4th worst red zone defense of the last decade. That's what happens when you cannot stop the run in short yardage. These are not going to be big names. You're looking at guys like Poona Ford from the Chargers, guys who are going to be big bodies, occasionally make plays in the passing game, but who are going to hold up against the run, the Morgan Foxes of the world. Build that depth, build that defensive line, and get the Cowboys strong on the line of scrimmage to help get them back to where they were at their peak.
Oh, that's it? Okay. 5-step plan.
Into why this is so silly, and I disagree. So when Myles Garrett requested a trade, right, Super Bowl week, I was grabbing some numbers on Myles Garrett, and he has been amazing. Last couple of years, 2nd in just about every metric. The reason he is 2nd is because Micah Parsons is 1st over the last 2 years. 1st in pressure rate, 1st in pass rush win, the most double edge rusher in the NFL. Doubled, by the way, at twice the rate of Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. He is a generational player. He is the kind of player GMs dream their entire careers of drafting. The idea that the Dallas Cowboys should move on from this level of game breaker because he podcasts? Like, he's a little bit outspoken. I mean, I've heard some of his quotes. They have not been about the Cowboys in a negative fashion. In fact, he came back from injury and played harder than half of the NFL. To trade him would send a message about culture for sure. That is the wrong message, which is we do not value our best homegrown players. I think it would be a move that would set this franchise back for, honestly, years and years.
Well, Mina, I think it's silly that the Dallas Cowboys right now are currently scheduled to have 3 players take up $150 million in cap. And we know the salary cap is going to land around $277 to $281 million.
But so that's not what you said.
So there's that. But it is what I said, Stephen A. If you tune
No, you were pointing that onto his mouth and his podcast.
No. It is what I said. If you tune into a sportsmanlike 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on the ESPN radio
Not 6 a.m., not 6 a.m. 7, but not 6.
ESPN 2. But it is what I said, and amongst other things. But here's the issue with regard to the culture. Micah Parsons did, in effect, throw his quarterback under the bus when he listed the top quarterbacks in the league and didn't bring up Dak's name. Michael Parsons did, in effect, when holding court in front of his locker with the media, talked about disregarding Coach Mike and saying that it's about guys like Zach Martin, other veteran players in our locker room. There have been various points where his commentary has undermined some of the things that people in that organization in authoritarian positions have had to say in terms of the overall messaging. So there is that aspect of it. But from a strictly team-building standpoint, Mina, what I don't understand is with all of the productivity and how impactful Michael Parsons is as an individual player, the Dallas Cowboys were next to last when it came to scoring defense last year. So you have this generational talent in Michael Parsons, but you don't have a whole lot else around him. And so what is the value of keeping a Michael Parsons if a contract extension for him means less money to fill in the gaps in the other areas of your team that you need to develop? That's the part that nobody can explain to me.
Go ahead, I can explain it. He was injured for a good chunk of the season, came back, and then they once again resumed having one of the best pass rushes in the NFL once he came back from injury and played in meaningful games. The reason why the Dallas Cowboys were not good last year has nothing to do with Micah Parsons. And sure, it would be easier to add players if you didn't pay him. The likelihood that those players, though, would compensate for his loss is honestly pie in the sky. As far as the cap goes, Stephen A., you know this, Dak Prescott's not going to be a $90 million cap hit this year. They're going to restructure his contract. They're going to restructure him. They should have paid Micah last season, offseason, pardon me, and this is the Dallas Cowboys' biggest sin as a franchise is they wait too damn long to pay guys. They're going to pay him, and then they're going to do their jobs as a front office, which is you figure out the rest of the roster once you have the most talented players in the NFL in place. You don't work in the other direction and just hope that taking a bunch of shots can give you something somewhat close to approximating what you got from that player.
There's only one Lawrence Taylor. There is no other Lawrence Taylor. But it's not an accident that when Lawrence Taylor decided to open his mouth about a particular player, that was the player he talked about. Why? Because Micah Parsons is worth it. That's why. This brother's big time. Make no mistake about it. And by the way, he ain't a culture, he's not a culture shredder. He's a culture builder as far as I'm concerned. Let's take into account what you said, Chris Canty, and talking about Dak Prescott. So what? That man's getting paid $60 million. $60 million. $60 million. Highest quarterback in the league, and the brother got 2 playoff victories. Jalen Hurts has been in the league less. He's got 2 Super Bowl appearances and a Super Bowl championship. Jaden Daniels is a rookie, and he got to an NFC championship game. We still waiting on year 10 for Dak Prescott to get in there. Why the hell should Micah Parsons go out there and call him a top 5 quarterback? Damn it, earn it. That's number 1. Number 2, Mike McCarthy. All right, he's going to take the year off. And, they always say when they can't find a damn job, they don't take the year off. All right, fine. Go ahead, so be it. Like Chicago or New Orleans really, really wanted you. Stop it, okay? The fact is you were in Green Bay. You were booted out of there. You were considered to be archaic. You took a year or 2 off, learned the error of your ways, sold Jerry Jones on that, got the job, subsequently kicked Kellen Moore out of the building because you swore up and down you were the dude that should be calling plays. You were the dude that should be running the offense. Oh, we were throwing the football too much, not running it nearly as much as we should. And then the second, Kellen Moore was on a flight to L.A. via LAX. This man, Mike McCarthy, goes about the business doing the same damn thing he swore Kellen Moore was doing wrong by throwing the damn football and relying on Dak Prescott all the time. Okay, so Micah Parsons doesn't come to his support. Micah Parsons doesn't come to, Dak Prescott support. But he's come to the support of Zach Martin. He came to the support of DeMarcus Lawrence. He came to the support of a bevy of other players talking about what they needed to do, okay? And oh, by the way, when it comes to running your mouth, how the hell you gonna knock him for running his mouth when his owner, his president, his GM runs his mouth more than him? And runs it more than anybody on the team. Don't give me this nonsense about Micah Parsons. That brother is the real deal. You don't move him for that reason.
Ho, Stephen A. You bringing up a billionaire in Jerry Jones. Everybody understand that billionaires don't have the same rules that we do. It's not hard to figure out that Jerry Jones can say whatever the hell he wants to say.
That's not my point.
When you're a player, you realize the owner has more leverage, more freedom than you do. So
well, what about when your behavior mirrors that of the owner? The owner might like that.
The issues that are facing the Dallas Cowboys, I'm not saying that Micah Parsons is the problem. But what we're trying to figure out is what is the solution to the issue that Mina already brought up, which is the Cowboys paying guys later than they should, which is the Cowboys
I'll let Mina handle that.
Their salary
I'm just telling you, don't
by
bring up
waiting months on end before you have to pay a player, and then, of course, paying absolutely at the top of the market. That is the issue. It's not paying Dak Prescott or paying CeeDee Lamb. It's when they decided to pay him and waited a year late.
All right, hold up. One person at a time. Let Canty finish, then Mina's chiming in.
I'm trying to wrap this up,
Canty ain't going to finish, Molly, ever.
I'm trying to wrap this up, Stephen A. Because they wait so late, they put themselves in salary cap hell, and then all of a sudden they get caught in this doom loop of over-leveraging the future for the here and now, which is what Mina is talking about them having to do in a couple of weeks before the start of the new league year, which is restructuring Dak Prescott and restructuring
Oh, my God. So none of us understand English now.
It's such a great point. I wish I had said it a few minutes earlier. Look, Chris, the issue, you're right, it is the front office. The issue is ownership. And by the way, this idea, well, he's a billionaire, he can get away. I don't care if he can get away with saying it. Our job is to criticize the people who are wrong, and that is the front office here. It's not Micah Parsons. Honestly, what he said about Micah McCarthy wasn't even that bad, frankly. I thought it was a little bit taken out of context during the season, but that's neither here nor there. It's certainly not enough to trade him. And the idea that just because the front office made the mistake of not paying him early, which I think we all agree is a mistake, means now they should make a mistake even worse by moving on from him, accumulating draft picks, in hopes that they might get a player like Micah Parsons. That's nonsense. They should keep him. They should pay him. And then you can figure it out with the rest. It's not an untenable cap situation to pay him and restructure Dak Prescott. I've looked at it. It is entirely possible for this team to do this.
Yeah, they can pay him, but then how does your team get markedly better from what it was last year? They got 25 free agents, y'all.
Time out.
They got
This ain't unsportsmanlike.
Trading him?
This ain't hold on, y'all. Hold on. This ain't unsportsmanlike. This is First Take. We have this segment because you brought up culture. You brought up the podcast. You brought up the locker room. Now, we can go back and forth in terms of the numbers. We playing a numbers game. All right, he's one player. You're already paying CeeDee Lamb and Dak. You add Micah Parsons to that. It's problematic. I got that part. You could go either way with what you said or Mina saying you can restructure his deal or what have you. I'm not debating that. The reason this is a segment, First Take, the reason this is a segment is because you brought up culture. You brought up the podcast. You brought up the locker room and the comment about Mike McCarthy. That is the reason we are talking about this subject. If it was just a matter of numbers, we wouldn't have been addressing this. We did this days ago. We did this because you went on the air and you brought up culture and blamed him, which to me is crazy. That's just crazy. You don't blame Micah Parsons for culture in Dallas?
Well, Stephen A., if I'm going to pay a guy $40 million a year, he's going to have to be a part of the culture being a good thing, not something that my organization and the rest of my locker room has to overcome.
So I can pay a dude 40. I can pay a dude 60 that can't get it done, but I'm going to have a problem playing a brother 30 to 40 who does.
You know what culture? Well, you know what culture I like? One of the two best pass rushers in football coming back from injury and giving a damn so much about a team that was already out of the playoffs that he was upset at the end of games. I like that culture. I do not care about the offhand quote here or there or podcasting. I care about a player who plays his butt off in the second half of the season the way Micah Parsons did, transforming that defense once again. That is the type of player I want on my team for the long term. I don't care about some podcast quotes that we use to do segments.
Well, what about the first two home games when the Dallas Cowboys defense gave up 72 points? 44 to the New Orleans Saints. What about that? Like, you're talking about the productivity of Micah Parsons in isolation, and we have to look at the player's overall impact on the team winning and committing those resources and what it limits you to doing when it comes to the rest of the roster. That's the entirety of the conversation. And then, oh, by the way, there is an important culture element to it because there's a reason why the Cowboys have the longest playoff